Thanks. GOP for funny owl. I don't read books to get smart, I read to escape reality. Shirt members into a disconnect with reality. TBH, that sounds way less stressful than living with my parents. I did this all through college, it was great. Yay, I'm confused why this is the top comment. Why not? I do. Basement suites are super common. I live in a stranger's basement and they make me give them $1,500 a month to do so. I moved into a mother-in-law apartment in a stranger's basement 10 years ago. It was super weird at first, but the basement is completely separate from the upstairs with a locked door. Funny owl. I don't read books to get smart, I read to escape reality. Shirt, tank top, V-neck, sweatshirt and hoodie. Hoodie, V-neck, tank top, sweatshirt. Private. Funny owl. I don't read books to get smart, I read to escape reality. Shirts entrance. All that. The other products. Caved on income limits. We need to pass it fast. But it's a little slower than the last one. On the stimulus. And why he's agreeing to the same amount here but making it sound lower, bypassing this now. Average salary raises are around 3% per year. So while I get a raise and make more money, I confident 2 South Boston champion shirt really only get to bank 1% more than I did the previous year. I actually broke it down for one of my bosses a few years ago when we were having an off-the-record conversation. We had a couple of employees leave and I was saying it wasn't exactly his fault. It was just corporate America. The average salary increase if you go to a competitor's company after 3 to 5 years in your current company is 15%. Confident 2 South Boston champion shirt average raise per year if you stay is 3%. Thus, if I leave after 5 years in my role, work for the competitor for 5 years, and then come back, I will have increased my salary by an additional 30% than if I had just stayed. Our company does other things to keep us happy. So I told him I was not going anywhere. And I still am not. We have a great culture here. But I made it clear the decision was because I valued my happiness at work more than I valued my bank account. But most people would rather suffer to make more. Thus our team losing people at the 3 to 5 year mark. Confident 2 South Boston champion shirt. Ladies tee. Long sleeved. Sweater and hoodie. Confident 2 South Boston champion ladies tee. Ladies tee. Any congressperson that believes we don't need a $15 minimum wage needs to 1. Be confident 2 South Boston champion shirt, forced to live on the wage they believe is acceptable, without help from their family or giant bank accounts. Although I'd be nice and give them access to a month's worth of $11 per hour net pay in their checking and savings account to start with. And 2. Needs to be excluded from all call raises that Congress applies to themselves. The minimum wage needs to be tied to median wage growth. But barring that, Congress should not be allowed to give themselves a call raise without also adjusting the minimum wage. If $174,000 isn't enough for them, then $15,000 definitely is not enough for the confident 2 South Boston champion shirt. Rest of us. What he wants is to look like he's hitting back against progressives, the Democrats, while doing minimum damage to the bill. It's why he ultimately caved on income limits. We need to pass it fast. But it's a little slower than the last one. On the stimulus. And why he's agreeing to the same amount here but making it sound lower, bypassing this now. So maybe he'll be okay proposing the amendment. Having progressives get publicly angry. Having the amendment fail. Making an angry floor speech and press release about the rejection of his amendment and how the minimum wage got tied into the broader relief bill. And voting in favor of the final bill. Confident 2 South Boston champion shirt anyway because he recognizes the value and urgency of COVID relief. Read a great Reuters article about ERCOT. In theory, the entire idea behind the system was to incentivize companies to make investments in their Disaster preparedness with the promise that they could make huge profits by charging more to keep the lights on in a disaster. What did they do instead? The Confident 2 South Boston Champion shirt saved money by not winterizing and not doing any kind of disaster prep. Then they went and charged ridiculous prices for power anyway. Win-win for the utilities. Lose-lose for society. This is why we regulate markets. To force groups to follow the spirit of the law whether they want to or not. Confident 2 South Boston Champion long-sleeved. Long-sleeved. Yeah. People seem to forget that capitalism has capitalized right there in the Confident 2 South Boston Champion shirt name. Capitalize is synonymous with an exploit. Exploitation is baked into the ideology. I've had libertarians actually argue with me on this point, so here's a link to a thesaurus for any of you who think otherwise. Overall, yes, the GOP Senate was successful in furthering their agenda over the last few years. But that's because they had a stronger grip on the Senate and could usually pass what they wanted. If they lost a couple of votes, the Democrats hold a one-seat majority and can't afford that. Not a great comparison. Repub. Yeah. People seem to forget that capitalism has capitalized right there in the Confident 2 South Boston Champion shirt name. Capitalize is synonymous with the exploit. Exploitation is baked into the ideology. I've had libertarians actually argue with me on this point, so here's a link to a thesaurus for any of you who think otherwise. Yep. This is an actually reasonable proposal that everyone should be able to get behind. Even Milton Friedman advocated for a negative income tax. I don't see why any principled conservative should oppose this. Remember, they want a Confident 2 South Boston Champion shirt cut taxes for upper income folks because they are the people who give them campaign and political party money. They use lower income folks' votes by pandering to social populism. Yeah, but then you might have a shot at the masses finally rallying for themselves instead of the rich. Dangle a tax break that actually helps them in front of their face and they'll Confident 2 South Boston Champion shirt be hooked for life. Throw in a payroll tax deduction for small businesses as well and I think you have a winner right there. That's because it is. The only state that I'd say Dems have better than even odds of flipping is PA. WI and NC are definitely possible with the right campaign. But it would take a monumental effort to take either O or FL. We should not assume that we will win NC, FL, GA, WI, and PA, especially when there are so many efforts to suppress the vote. Turnout for Trump in 2020 was scary high and more obstacles to voting in those midterm races in those states is worrisome. Confident 2 South Boston Champion sweater. The loans often have at least one or two defections in the Senate. It's just that the Democrats are in the Confident 2 South Boston Champion shirt very rare. Asterisk not unprecedented. It's happened 3 times in American history. Situation of having literally no margin for error. The Republican defectors in the Senate are always given permission to defect when they have enough votes otherwise, as it helps them maintain the illusion that they are moderate. Notice how Collins, Romney, and Murkowski never seem to defect at the same time? That's by design. They take turns casting no votes so that it never actually affects the Republican agenda. But it can help them in future elections when they claim to be moderated. The Confident 2 South Boston Champion shirt. Only time that this wasn't the case was when McCain voted no on the ACA repeal and fucked over McConnell. McCain only did that because he was dying and wouldn't have to worry about re-election. Because Manchin is the Mitch McConnell of the Democratic Party. He is a centrist. So if they don't have his vote, they don't have the majority. There is absolutely zero reaching across the aisle anymore, and it's going to be the death of America. We are splitting into literally 2 factions of people. Half the country is for progressive measures. The other confident to South Boston champion shirt half for authoritarianism, unfettered capitalism. I agree with you, but just to reiterate that there's no reaching across the aisle because of Republican antics started in the 90s with Newt Gingrich, and it's only got worse as time has gone on. Why hasn't this been proposed? A deduction encourages work, and your paychecks are automatically 10 to 12% bigger. Not to mention, less chance of layoffs for low-wage workers. Everyone wins. A small tax on capital gains over $50 mil could make up the difference. Tax cuts are great, just don't give them only to the rich. Give them to everyone instead. Hell, it wouldn't even be a new thing. We'd just be reverting to the pre-World War II income tax structure. Confident to South Boston champion hoodie. PA is the only state out of those that Biden won by a healthy margin. The others Biden confident to South Boston champion shirt either lost or barely won. NC has a real chance with Jeff Jackson. He's a good man and served in the Army and is still in the National Guard. Don't Republicans love to reminisce about the good old days? He missed the last week or two of campaigning for his state Senate seat due to his incommitment. He will get the Charlotte, Asheville, and Raleigh vote, so it just depends on how many he can swing in the other cities. A surprising amount of people know Jeff Jackson across the state already too. I guess because he interacts so much online with everyone. I can name him but not my own state senator. I think GA is a safer bet than the rest because Stacey Abrams and all the activists who helped her aren't about to sit on the sidelines for the confident to South Boston champion shirt midterms. NC, as much as I hate this freakin' state, has a decent chance. Cal Cunningham almost won over Tillis. And would have won if he hadn't cheated on his wife. Dumbass. And with Burr retiring, there's no Republican incumbent this time. I don't know who the GOP is gonna run for that Senate seat, but rumor has it that the Dems are gonna run an extremely popular former judge who's won several statewide elections already, so I wouldn't write NC odd just yet. PA. Maybe they confident to South Boston champion shirt definitely have a few possible Dems who I think could win without too much trouble, but you never know. As for Florida and WI. Those are the two I would worry about the most in this group. FL is, well, we all know what Florida is. They wouldn't vote in their own best interest even if someone was holding a gun to their head. Oh, I'm aware. And it's no guarantee either way. But hopefully, those laws aren't able to be passed. And if they are, hopefully activists like Stacey Abrams can find a way to get people registered. Anyway, I will say though that it's good that it's Warnock and not Ossoff. Black people, and I say this as a black person, are a lot more likely to turn out to vote for a black candidate like Warnock. Other products.